Hi, I'm Jesutomisin Ipinmoye, the author of How to Get Rid of Ants, and I'll be answering some more questions. That's a difficult question to answer. I feel like all the stories have, if not elements, then perspectives or experiences from myself embedded in them, consistent through line throughout the collection and just in general how I write. If I had to pick one, I would probably say Dimeji in the first story, because it was one of the first stories that I wrote that started from a direct place of me asking myself a question. Like in this case, I think I was going through a lot of time and I was trying to externalize the emotions I was feeling, and it ended up as this question of, it feels like this beef is generational. This isn't me against myself. Anywhere I explore any story is because it fascinates me. I am most fascinated by experiences I can't simply explain, and behaviors that in no other context would make sense. So I think you can say that I'm sometimes working backwards from an experience or behavior that seems completely irrational and then trying to arrive at that irrationality in a rational manner. I don't know that any of them was more challenging to write than the other. I do know that some were more difficult to edit. I found Bellefool in particular very difficult to edit just because I couldn't work out the characters' motives in the edit. I also found Synecdoche Lagos, the last story, difficult to really put together because I started off from trying to do a thing where I'm not really telling a story. I'm trying to be edgy and cool and do something different to the form, and then eventually became what it was, but I didn't feel satisfied that it was a story, which was what made it difficult to edit. The most surprising feedback I think I've ever received is that I tend to write stories impersonally. It was actually very useful in helping me figure out what I still need to improve and still need to work on in storytelling. But I tend to write very personal experiences, or at least the most personal part of my writing. I feel very impersonal, but then I dwell in the mundane aspects of the story. So in a story about, say, a man who's just lost his father and is maybe going to the funeral, I would seem completely detached from the actual experience of the man going to the funeral, to his actual emotional experience, but be focused on the minute detail of the routine of the drive and people he met on the way. I think there's good and bad parts to it. It's something I enjoy doing in stories because I think the external reflects a lot about the internal, but otherwise, it is also a feedback that surprised me that did point out that, I can still work more on the emotions of a story. Without a doubt, Kurt Vonnegut. I don't know what we would write together. We come from very different contexts, but he would just, if I could raise the dead, it would be Kurt. So earlier this year, my good friend and talented writer, Gabriel M. Harry, sent me something about Afro-presentism. And then a couple of weeks later, she sent me a story by Gertrude Stein. And that sent me down a rabbit hole where I started reading about insistence. Then shortly after, sent me a poem by Gertrude Stein. And that sent me down this rabbit hole where I was reading about insistence and started thinking about the present a lot. And then because sometime late last year, I had read Slaughterhouse-5, and I was thinking about all these things about living in the moment. I also finished, lots of things combined essentially, because I just also finished watching Russian Doll, Natasha Lyonne's Russian Doll, and there was all these thoughts I had about in the moment and being present, and that being the most significant way to explore a story. It's still something I'm trying to piece together, But I'm very interested in exploring what that infinite presence is in my work. For me, the key difference is that short stories are just easier to write. They come to me more naturally. And I think people who write novels are special and have the capacity for torture. But I am working on a novel, and whenever I get around to finishing it, I guess we'll see it. So, thank you.